Let's talk about toggles. So one thing I've always done is keep the guylines attached to tarps for when it comes to flying them in whatever kind of configuration you're after. But today we're going to see if we can change the habit of a lifetime. I've noticed over time keeping the guys attached to it, the eyelets that they get tied to just seem to get absolutely wrecked, completely unnecessarily. Keeping them attached to it puts unnecessary stress on it all the time. So today we're going to look at using toggles to attach the paracord guylines instead of using a knot to attach it to the actual tarp. We've got ourselves a new 3x3 tarp, shout out to Lomo, we'll talk a little bit more about them later on. We've got all our hanks of paracord, we've got our toggles, let's go. I've always used DD tarps for any kind of tarp setup, but I've always carried a Lomo dry bag. They're a company that make water sports gear, you know, like canoe bags and stuff like that. So I figured, and I've got a lot of faith in that, I've used those for ages and they've never served me wrong. So I thought we'd branch out into the more hardware kind of stuff and give the Lomo tarps a bash. So let's see if we can get this tied up, shall we? Okay, so we're here, we found our little spot. First thing we're going to do is get rid of the guys that come with it, because we're not going to use those. Then, I'm going to take it out of the bag for the first time. Not going to need the pegs. So, initially looking at these, the eyelets are double stitched, which is going in our favour because we're attempting to not keep the guys on this. We're going to try and keep the eyelets as intact as possible. So now we need to attach our toggles to our guys. Just like putting his trousers on, we're going to do this one leg at a time. So first things first, little clove hitch in the centre of this. We're going to try and just fly this tarp in an A-frame, just nice and traditional, super simple. So that is one toggle attached to one guy. So now let's see if we can attach it to our tarp. We're not going to be using a ridgeline for this, so I found the centre seam of the tarp toggle, just going to go through there, and all we're going to do is attach it to the tree behind us with a mooring hitch. And then we'll rinse and repeat on the other side, get it elevated up off the floor, and we'll have a look at how much less stress it's putting on that eyelet. Slight change of plan, we're going for a little diamond setup just based on the spacing of the trees. But what we'll do now is we'll tension out those mooring hitches and see what we're working with. So just at a glance, I can already see that that's putting significantly less stress on those eyelets. They're not going to become as deformed as they do when you attach the guylines permanently. Let's have a closer look. So I tend to attach my guylines to the tarps using a sheet bend, and I use the eyelet almost like the bend in the sheet bend. And what happens consequently over time is this part of the eyelet just gets all scrunched up, bent out of shape. When you put extra stress on it, it puts lots and lots of tension on the stitching of the tarp. So I can already see that not keeping these on permanently is not going to result in that deformation of the eyelet. And it's kind of putting less stress on it, I'll be honest. Just one thing I have noticed while I've been doing this, and this isn't much of a complaint, is that the eyelets that run across the central line of the tarp. There's only 4 of them. With them being an even number, that means there isn't an eyelet smack in the middle, and I tend to utilise that one quite a lot. Now, I'm only using the 4 here, but we've made 8 in total, so I think I'm going to keep doing this. I quite like it without having spent too much time doing it already. I can tell that I'm going to be a bit of a fan of this, especially because it's new, I think. Like, this is it, we're about to break the habit of a lifetime. Just realised this is starting to maybe look like a paid ad. I promise this is just a tarp that I bought. Lomo haven't sent me anything, although if you want to, you know where we are. So if we're thinking pros and cons, I can see that there's advantages and disadvantages to either using the toggles or keeping the guys on. The first thing that comes to mind is that not having the guys attached to it means that when it goes back in the bag, there is 0 chance of everything getting tangled up or the hanks coming undone and just having to spend 10-15 minutes getting everything untangled before you even start. That is a big plus. So is the amount of time I suspect I'm going to save on repairs when it comes to these eyelets, having not kept things attached to them forever in a day. So let's be honest, pain, isn't it? I've always kept the guys attached because I felt like it were slightly more convenient, but to be honest, now I've done this for the first time, it's no more messing around, no more hard work than it would be if they were attached to it. So yeah, I think we're going to stick with this method for this particular tarp. I'm not going to bother taking the ones off the other tarps, but like I said, because this one's new, I think we're going to try and keep it as intact as possible. There we go. Toggles and tarps, breaking the habit of a lifetime. Now I'm going to clear off before these midges start eating me alive. But until next time, go explore.